Okay, so this video is going to be a short video specifically looking at chemical formula that have brackets and how we can work out the relative mass or the gram formula mass of one of those. So we'll just start in with a good example. So the first one we'll do is calcium hydroxide. Now calcium hydroxide has that as a formula. And I'm aware that sometimes when you've got something in brackets and something in not brackets, it can be a bit difficult. So what my suggestion is that we just separate it apart. So we're going to split it into the part that's got a bracket and the part that doesn't have a bracket. So on this side, we're just going to treat it like it's calcium. And on this side, we're going to treat it like it's OH2. So, we know what we do with normal formula. We look at it, it's the calcium. There's no number, so there's 1. So when it comes to calcium, we have got 1 atom. Then what we do is we look up the data booklet, and we find that calcium as an atom has a mass of 40. So that gives us 40. So that's this side done. Now what we need to do is look at the other side, and this is where the bracket comes in and it can be a bit confusing. Now one way to make it easy is to just replace the bracket with something else. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove the bracket, so it's just OH, and we're going to do our normal formula. OH, but before we do that, the bracket had a 2 on the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a times 2 there. And I'm going to leave that there for now. And then I've just got the bit that's inside the bracket. So I'm going to write that in a different colour. The times 2 is from here. That's times 2. Now what we're going to do is we've got our hydroxide, we have got oxygen, we've got no number after it, so it's 1. And when we look up oxygen, we find out that its mass is 16. Hydrogen's next, we have got 1 hydrogen, and when we look that up, it's got a mass of 1. Now what I'm going to do, see this times 2? I'm just going to add it to each row. Just going to add a times 2. That's all the bracket's doing. Whatever's in the bracket, and then what's on the outside of the bracket. Now what we'll do is we will do the multiplication. So when we multiply this, we've got 1 times 16 times 2. So you can use your calculator for that. And it comes out at 32. And we've got 1 times 1 times 2, which equals 2. And the final step, we've done that. So we've done this half. So the final step is taking this number, and that number, and adding them together. So the gram formula mass is equal to 40 plus 32 plus 2, which equals 74 grams. So we'll do another example. So the next example, let's do ammonium sulfate. So this one's a bit bigger, a bit more complicated looking, but it's not really. I'm just going to do the exact same thing. We're going to split the compound in half, and we're going to take this over that side, and we're going to take this over that side. So what we've got here is NH4, 2, and over here we've got SO4. Now, like last time, what we're going to do is we're going to just remove the bracket, and there's a number 2 on the outside, so what we're going to do is we're just going to write it times 2. And for now, we're going to leave that times 2 there, and we're just going to think about what's inside the bracket. So that's an NH4. So now we've got something that we know how to deal with. We've just got the NH4. We know it contains nitrogen. We know it contains hydrogen. The nitrogen has no number after it, so that means there's 1. And if we look up the data booklet, we know that 1 nitrogen weighs 14, has a mass of 14. Hydrogen has 4 after it, so we know there's 4 of them. And when we look up the data booklet, each one has 1. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this times 2 to each line. And what we're going to do is do the multiplication. So 1 times 14 times 2 is 28. 4 times 1 times 2 equals 8. And we have done that side. So the 2 here has become that multiplied by 2, and we've just removed the bracket. Now we've got sulfate to deal with. No bracket, so we don't need to do anything else. We just treat it like we would anything else. We know that it's got a sulfur in it, and we know it's got oxygen in it. Sulfur, no number after it, so that means there's 1 of it. And if we look up the data booklet, sulfur has a mass of 32. Oxygen has a 4 after it, so we know there's 4 of them. And if we look up the data booklet, oxygen has a mass of 16. So now what we do is we do the multiplication. 4 times 16 is 64. And we've done this side. So we've done both sides. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add up all the numbers. So we have got gram formula mass is 28 plus 8 plus 32 plus 64. And that is 132 grams, which you can use your calculator for. Let me just check that's correct. 8 plus 32 is 14, plus 64 is 104. Yes, 132. I'll just do one more example. What we'll do is, we'll do one with a different number. So we'll look at aluminium nitrate. Okay, so just like before, we're going to split it in half. The bit with the bracket and the bit without the bracket. We've got aluminium on this side, and we have got NO3 on this side. We're going to just start on the left hand side. No brackets, nothing to deal with at all. We just know that there's aluminium in it. No number, so that means that there's 1. And if we look up the data booklet, aluminium has a mass of 27. So when we multiply, we get 27. And so we have dealt with this side. Now, what we're going to do is on this side, we're going to get rid of the bracket, but we've got a 3 here. So all we're going to do is we're going to write times 3. Times 3 there, and now we're just going to look at what's inside the bracket, which is NO3. Now NO3, we know what to deal with. We know how to deal with that. It's got nitrogen and it's got oxygen. Nitrogen, no number after it, which means there's 1. When we look up the data booklet, nitrogen has a mass of 14. Oxygen has a 3 after it, so we've got 3. When we multiply, we're going to be multiplying by 16. Now what we do is we just bring down this times 3 into all the rows, and we do our multiplication. And for this, I think I might need to use my calculator. So 3 times 14 is 42. 3 times 16 is 48, but we need to multiply that by 3 again, and that gets 144. So let me just check that, 16 times 9. Yeah, 144. And we have done the NO3, we've done the bracket, so we've done this side. Final step, sorry about that, my pencils are running away from me. We add up all those numbers. So the gram formula mass is equal to 27 plus 42 plus 144. And when we do that, 144 plus 42 plus 27, it equals 213 grams. So that has been 3 examples on how to deal with brackets inside a formula. And an easier way to do it is to split it up and treat each side separately. So I hope that helps brackets make more sense to everyone. Thank you for your attention.